Hey, very good.
Hi everyone, good morning. Okay. Good morning, thank you so much for joining us here today, and thank you to those of you who are joining online as well. My name is Seag. I'm the Global Mountains Director for the International Cryosphere Climate Initiative, or ICCI, and we are delighted to welcome you to this morning's event on the state of the cryosphere in Peru. Throughout this event, leaders and experts in the field will discuss advances both in knowledge about and management of climate change in Peru, focused specifically on progress and challenges to adaptation to changes in the mountain cryosphere. Changes in the cryosphere have significant socioeconomic relevance in Peru, which is home to the vast majority of the world's tropical glaciers. These glaciers have provided an essential source of fresh water for mountain and downstream communities, especially during the dry season, when mountain glaciers provide a buffer against drought and ensure reliable water for drinking, agriculture, and energy production. However, because of climate change, these glaciers are rapidly disappearing. In the last 50 years alone, Peru's glaciers have lost about half of their surface area, and the loss of remaining glaciers, which in some cases may disappear entirely in just a few decades, will have impacts that reverberate around the country. Of particular concern are the availability of fresh water and the growing risk of hazards such as glacier lake outburst floods. The need to understand and adapt to climate change in Peru's mountain cryosphere is urgent. And with that in mind, this morning we have a wonderful lineup of speakers who will share insights on the important work that is being done to advance adaptation to climate change in Peru, both by government agencies who are advancing the management of climate adaptation and by scientists whose research feeds into decision-making from the local to national levels. They will share the latest advances in research carried out by the Peruvian National Institute for Research on Glaciers and Mountain Ecosystems, or INAIGEM, as well as research being undertaken by international experts. This work is essential to advancing climate adaptation in Peru and also importantly contributes to regional and global efforts to understand, mitigate, and adapt to climate change-induced loss of the mountain cryosphere worldwide. And after these presentations, we will open the floor to questions both from our live audience and online, and we will conclude with brief virtual closing remarks from the president of INAIGEM. And first, we have the honor of hearing from Milagros Sandoval, who is the Director General of Climate Change and Desertification in Peru's Ministry of Environment. Milagros, the floor is yours.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for being here. Welcome. I think that Morgan has reflected specifically what we are working nowadays in Peru, and I would like to highlight the importance of collaboration. Collaboration to work on these issues, collaboration that is part of this process, and definitely part of what we want to discuss today. This side event reflects the work that's being done and the collaboration that's being done related to the cryosphere in Peru. As mentioned, the cryosphere is definitely important because it's not only related to just losing glaciers, it's related to the livelihoods of people that depend on the water resources and to the overall process that is part of this important ecosystem. Right now, during the UNFCCC negotiations, and I think that's something that sometimes, even though we're very near, we do not discuss exactly what's being discussed out in the negotiation rooms and what's been discussed here. I think the cryosphere is a clear example of this. Why? Because this includes clearly loss and damage for Peru. These areas, the cryosphere is going to be, unfortunately, we're going to lose it. And probably there's no way to bring it back. And this is going to reflect in the lives of many, many people, especially Andean communities, that definitely need this process. What are we doing in Peru? We're working, as I mentioned, in a collaborative manner. We have to identify much more information. Today we're going to bring in information that we're working right now, but definitely there's a process that we need to continue working and collaborating not only at the national government, but also at the international community. We also have to bring and reflect and give a spotlight to why these areas are important for the country, but also how different communities are experiences the impact of losing this important ecosystem. And I think that's also what now we want to address. I also would like to thank today the participation of 3 of our congressmen, 3 congresistas right now in this side event, because they are important to understand what is happening and also how this can be reflected at the national level through our legislative branch, how that we can highlight this process. Muchas gracias, señores congresistas, por acompañarnos hoy día en esta presentación y la importancia de poder conocer el tema de la criosfera, la importancia de este ecosistema tan valioso para el Perú. I'm sorry, I'm going back and forth in Spanish and English, but muchas gracias a los congresistas Málaga, Taipe y Isabel que nos están acompañando el día de hoy para poder conocer un poquito más, y también a los colegas peruanos y peruanas que también están acá. Thank you very much, and the first years again.
Thank you so much, Milagros. And our next speaker is Lizzy Kanashiro, who is an adaptation specialist focused on ecosystems based at the General Directorate of Climate Change and Desertification. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to give you some information about how we work about the integral management of climate change in Peru. And tell you a little bit about how we're working about Cryosphere in Peru. Next, please.
And the COP15 will be crucial. It's looking at action really. And it's really to kind of urge an ambitious outcome on the biodiversity negotiation, really protect our 30% of nature. So, because without Paris being out, so I'd like to thank you for your attention, for your excellent leadership and the work that you do. I'll pass the next one.
Next one, please. Yeah, sorry. Next one. Next one. So first I'm going to talk to you about how do we work about the integral management of climate change in Peru and its contribution to the sustainable development in our country. Next. So the integral management of climate change in Peru is worked in 2 different aspects. The first one, in institutional terms, and this is under the framework law of climate change and its regulations. And in the other side we have the actions that we do, and this is represented in our NDCs, the nationally determined contributions. These 2 aspects are worked in an integral manner from 3 different levels, the multi-sectorial level, the multi-level participation, and the multi-stakeholder participation. Talking about the multi-sectorial level, there are 2 big spaces where we work climate change, and the first one is the National Commission of Climate Change, where we have the participation from different kinds of actors in Peru, from the state government, non-government state actors, and also civil society, the academy, indigenous people, women, youth. So we're trying to get the participation from different kind of actors from the country. And the other space where we coordinate climate change issues is the high-level Commission of Climate Change, where we have representations from all the most of the ministries of our country, and where we have the proposals to develop new NDCs or maybe actualization of our NDCs that we already have. No? So we have two spaces to coordinate this. The other aspect where we work the integral management of climate change in Peru is that we have a coordination from the national level with the different sectors, with a subnational level also, with regions and also local level, no? Talking about government spaces. And also the multi-stakeholder level. We have a mechanism to include the participation of people that is called the Dialoguemos, or it's translated to Let's Talk, where we call representatives from all different kinds of institutions, from the state, non-state, indigenous people, women, everybody, to receive their recommendations, their points of view, and to try to make a consolidated documents. No? For example, our national strategy of climate change and the different documents like this that are prepared by the states are worked on this way, no? With the participation of everybody. Next one, please. So, what is the importance of the framework law of climate change? This is important because it strengthens the relation between the national, regional, and local levels. Because in this law we have the roles and the functions of all the government sectors. How do they have to do related to NDC, for example, no? And to implement these NDCs. It also talks about that the climate change management needs to include the academia and the research participation as an input to develop the climate change action. And also it includes the NDC monitoring. It establishes that there has to be a national system to do the follow-up of the advancing of our NDCs and to improve our work and maybe get more ambitious on them. And as you can see, involving all the levels from the national, the regional, and the local, there is an integrated management of the climate change in the planning instruments that we have at all levels, no? So the national strategy of climate change, the regional strategies of climate change, and we also have local plans of climate change, no? And all they are related. And the Ministry of the Environment is the national authority of climate change, no? So we articulate from the ministry the participation of all the actors. Next one, please. So talking about the NDCs, we have 84 adaptation measures in 7 prioritized thematic areas. No? We have agriculture, forest, fishing and aquaculture, health, water, and 2 recent new thematic areas that are tourism and transport that were included in our NDCs, trying to reach more ambitions for the Peruvian Compromise. No? And the objective, the target of our adaptation NDCs is to reduce the level of vulnerability and risk associated with climate change and take advantages of its opportunities also, no? Because not everything is bad. No? There can be rich opportunities and we have to try to take advantage of them when they appear. And I'm talking about mitigation. There are 63 mitigation measurements in 5 different greenhouse gases emission sectors. These are the sectors that are more related to the emission of GH8, and it's the LULU, no? Land use and land use change and forestry, energy, industrial processes, agriculture, and waste. No? These are the sectors related to emissions of the gases, greenhouse gases emissions. No? And all our measures from adaptation and mitigation have transversal approaches. No? We try to develop or implement these measures, but taking in account the gender, intergenerational, and interculturality dimensions of the themes in these NDCs. No? So they are transversal to all our indices. Yeah, next one please. So as you can see, in Peru, the management of climate change is integral because it has an institutional strengthening. From the framework law of climate change, we try to integrate the action between the national, regional, and local level. It's multi-sectoral implementation because it converts the work of different kind of actors from the countries, not only the government actors, also civil society and the academy and everybody else. It's multi-level implementation because we were trying to, that implementation of NDCs are from the planning of the local, regional, and national level. And we have two big spaces to talk about NDC and how to develop them and strengthen them and get them more ambitious also, no? And in this part it's important because in here we have the participation of the private actors, no? So to implement NDCs we need money, and this is the space where we can catch the rotation and try to get NDC financing to make more ambitious our compromise about NDCs. No? Next one, please. So talking about Cryosphere, Peru has more than 70% of the tropical glaciers in the world, and during the research has shown that more than 50% of our glaciers has been lost. So it's very urgent to work on them. And talking about that, in our NDCs, in the thematic area of water, we have 3 NDCs related to glaciers. No? Next one, please. And these NDCs are trying to help people to be less vulnerable to the loss of water, mainly because in Peru, glaciers are more related to the provision of water. So these are the 3 NDCs that we have in Peru related to glaciers. The first one is implementation of early warning systems for floods, alluviums, and other dangers of glacier origin. This is a measure that is trying to develop management risk against the impacts that from the loss of glaciers can happen. The second one is the implementation of water harvesting actions. This is an NDC very interesting because it takes into account the traditional management that local communities do, and they have been doing this for many years ago, and they are now being used as adaptation measures against water loss. No? And the third one is implementation of information services for multi-sectorial planning and management of water resources in bases vulnerable to climate change. And this is important also, no? Because as you have seen in other spaces, to get information and research is very important to design and implement the adaptation measures, no? In an effective way. So this is an industry that is trying to systematize the information and also to generate more research. And yeah, that's what I want to share with you. Thank you very much. We're going to give you the floor again.
Thank you so much, Lizzy, for sharing with us the multi-scalar, integrative, collaborative, and inclusive approach that Peru is taking to adaptation to climate change. And we'll turn now to a series of scientific presentations, the first of which will come from Dr. Martínez, who is the Vice Director for Knowledge Management and Capacity Building at INAIGEM, and he will tell us a bit about how scientific knowledge can be used to inform decision making.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, I will talk a little about the state of the glaciers in Peru and how we relate this with the adaptation measure. Okay. No, it's okay. Not better? Okay, here we see the global distribution of tropical glaciers. As you see, as Lizzy said before, practically more than 97% of glaciers, of tropical glaciers in the world are concentrated in Peru. Practically more than 99% in South America, and of them, the majority are in Peru. The next one, please. Now we see that the tropical glaciers are divided in different regions, and this region characterized by seasonality. Seasonality is very important in the case of tropical glaciers, because in one season they accumulate snow, and in both seasons they lose ice and snow. For only one season they accumulate. And you see here how in different latitudes this dynamics is different. Most glaciers in Peru, as you see, okay, as you see, glaciers took the sources of the before, but due to the effect of climate change, in several decades, they are losing very fast. They are losing mass and energy. And the next one. Here is there are some examples about different glacial covered ranges in Peru, and the rate at which they are losing mass, the rate of glaciation. They have had from 1962 to 2016. As you see, the Cordillera Blanca is very important. It's where more glaciers concentrate in Peru. You see, they have they have lost a great part of their area up to now. But different ranges have lost different parts of the glacial area, because this depends not only on temperature due to climate change, but also depends very strongly on the direction of the wind and of pollution, as I will say afterwards. Also, pollution has a great influence in glacial loss. The next one, please. Now I will show you, for example, some examples about glaciers from the Cordillera Blanca, which is the main glacial branch in Peru. This is the Arturo glacier. As you see, this Arturo glacier has lost a lot of glacial mass in the last decades, and new lagoons have formed. And you see there how these lagoons have been growing in the last years. The dynamic of the glacier is like that. First, when the melting accelerates, then several lagoons are formed, and they are growing. Then these growing lagoons cause a great danger to the population. But with time passes more along, then this lagoon we have no ice, practically no ice in the glacier in the long run, then this lagoon will begin to disappear also. And in the long run, we will have drought. We will have no water. That's the dynamics of the problem. Next one, please. You see the dynamics of this particular glacier at the Sandoval. In the last years, he has lost a lot of area. now, and you see how the lagoon was growing and the glacier has been losing it. Next one, please. Now we will show you the isolines of glacier retreat in several examples in this Cordillera Blanca. This is the Pastoruri Glacier that is very famous because of winter sport. Now in some years we will have no Pastoruri. Then winter sports in Peru will be declining. As you see very clearly how it has been decreasing its area in the last years. Next one, please. Next one. This is the Yanamarei Glacier. It's a similar process. This is also another glacier of the Cordillera Blanca. Next one, please. Next one. Okay, I think it's too fast. This is a Ushimagazu glacier. As you see, it has practically lost a great deal of its area too. These are similar examples from the same Cordillera Blanca that show that practically all the glaciers are losing area, particularly in Peru. The other one, please. Next one. Okay, this, as I was saying, this glacial retreat causes the problem of the long-run problem of water scarcity. But it causes also the present problem of the risk of glacial disasters, glacial-related disasters, like avalanches. This is caused by when the glacier begins to melt, some rocks and some ice, very big ice masses become loose. They become unstable. Then, as long as the ice mass is lost, then some of these rocks may fall down. They may fall down and they may form avalanches, but they may also go into the lagoons. And if a big rock goes into the lagoon, then this lagoon forms a big wave, and it forms what is called the globe. It's a glacier originated flood. Generally, in the way of this water, there is a city or some human settlements, because they feed from this water. And then normally this can cause big problems, life losses and so on. The other one, please. The other one. These are an example of all the lagoons and globes that have happened in the Cordillera Blanca. As you see, this is not an exceptional problem. This is a normal problem that happens periodically, and then the only way to know when it can happen is to observe in detail the evolution of these ice masses, to know if there is any instability that might cause this problem. The other one, please, the next one. This is an example of lagoons threatened in Huaraz. Huaraz, as you know, is the capital of the department of Ancash. It's an important city in the Andes that has had already before this problem. And now it's threatened by repetition of the problem. The other one, please. The next one. Next one. This, for example, you have the 1941 avalanche and 1970 earthquake. There were two natural disasters that were caused by this type of disturbance. The earthquake moved the rocks in the glacier and we got an avalanche. And in 1941 we have also a problem because of glacier melting that caused a very bad consequences. Next one, please. Then, what is the way to adapt to this problem? This problem will happen anyway, but the way to adapt is a different way. One of them is constructing specific constructions, works like walls and tunnels, drainage tunnels that help us to deviate the excess water from the lagoons, so that they are not so full that they can cause a disaster. Next one, please. For example, this is an example of the drainage tunnels in Lagoon 513, one of the lagoons. As you see, we have here tunnels that allow, managing the tunnels, we can let go the excess water, but we don't want to let go of the water because the water is needed for agriculture. Then we only want to let go the dangerous water. Then that's why it's not so easy to manage this type of system. These systems, most of them were constructed in Peru in the 70s. Then now they need maintenance and they need rebuilding in many cases. Then it is very important that the government and the Congress support this review of all these works, and we need money for that, so that this work can be rebuilt and to give security to our population. Next one, please. Then there is another effect. There is another effect that is not so well known as the previous one. That is the problem that when the glacier retreats, it uncovers some minerals, some rocks that, independence of the composition of these rocks might be pollutant. Then, if these rocks are pollutant, the water, when it comes down, it comes through these rocks and it pollutes the lagoon. And then a lagoon that previously gave water to the population and agriculture may be ruined totally. And this happens very frequently. This is acid rock drainage. It's called. This phenomena is very known because of mining. In the mines, for example, the mines usually pollute the water nearby, but this is artificial. In this case, this is the same process for natural products because of glacial retreat. Next one, please. This is the monitoring of acid rock drainage in the Cordillera Blanca from 2016 to 2022. As we see, we have from 9 hydrographic units. We have found that 3 of them has no problem. 5 of them have that problem. Has the problem. Most of the hydrographic units that has been investigated in Cordillera Blanca have the problem of pollution. It's not an exceptional problem. It is the rule already. It's practically a rule. And then one of them is have been ruling also for mining drainage. That's the other problem that we have with mines. Next one, please. Next one. Next one. Okay, as you see here, This is the effect of this acid rain drainage in Huaraz. From 3 rivers that feed Huaraz with water, only one is good. Now 2 of them are ruined because of this type of pollution. Next one, please. There is a way, there are some research about remediation of this problem, like a kind of adaptation also. It's phytoremediation. There are some plants that have been studied, that change the pH of the acidity of the water. And then by introducing these plants in the lagoons, we can somehow control the problem. But it's very complex. It's only beginning to develop this method. Then we need support for that. Next one. The other problem is black carbon, or pollution. Pollution by black carbon. What is the problem of black carbon? Black carbon is one of the causes that makes so different the deglaciation process in different glaciers. This has been studied in Peru and in Chile also. They have been very seriously studied. Then these black carbon particles are light absorbing particles. One of these particles goes on the snow, then it heats a lot. Snow normally reflects solar radiation, so snow has high albedo. But when these particles are, they have lower albedo. They practically absorb all the energy, and then they heat the snow around them. Next one, please. Next one. And this one, what happens? In every place where you have a particle, then you have that snow disappears, melts. Then they accelerate it's very important, the acceleration process, because of black carbon. Next one, please. We have in INAIGEM, we are monitoring black carbon using, with the help of a collaboration project with Italy. We could develop, we could install this accelerometer installation, and we also take measurements directly in the snow. And using sampling methods, and afterwards analyzed. And in the air, the concentration in the atmosphere, we do using accelerometers. Next one, please. Then goes the conclusions. I think I'm taking too much time already, but I have talked about all these particular problems. Then next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Danielle. I think you've made abundantly clear the scale of the challenges that are being faced in Peru, which demands such urgent action. So thank you very much for that. And our next scientific presentations comes from Dr. Fabien Maussion, who is an associate professor of atmospheric and cryospheric sciences at the University of Innsbruck. Thank you.
I'm really sorry about the name of the institute. We're going to try with another pointer to see if it works. Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much for the invitation. I've been tasked with the role of talking more about the global topic of scientific data and how it can be used to inform adaptation measures among regions. And I'm going to give examples not only from Peru, but also from my mountain Asia. My role is here, so I'm a glacier modeler and I'm a scientist, and I don't work really in adaptation implementation, but I think that we can help to produce data which can help in this respect. When we think about the impacts of the cryosphere, we have all these aspects coming into place. So sea level rise is one of the changes, and this is adaptation for livelihood and tourism, and of course water security and hazards. And today I'm going to talk mostly about these two, which are more relevant to mountain regions. We've heard about it already. One of the impacts is because of the creation of lakes in front of glaciers. They create a risk of flood for a region downstream. And related to water security, there is a large number of people working below mountain regions and which are relying on seasonal snow and ice, in particular as buffer of drought. So during the dry season, snow and ice melt is going to compensate for missing precipitation. Next slide. And so in a recent overview study, scientists tried to document many mountain adaptation actions are documented in the scientific literature. And you can see that, of course, the regions with more mountains have actually more actions in place, and Peru and Nepal are really standing out with a number of studies documenting an adaptation. But this study also highlighted some problems in the documentation of adaptation measures. One of the most important and highly studied region is the Cordillera Blanca in Peru, and here this is another example we've already heard of, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. There are also risk assessment studies, and so here this is an example of an adaptation measure where there is on one place engineering solutions to the problem of rising seas and lakes, but also a plan of evacuation if something happens. Okay, so we know now that these studies on adaptation measure are highly skewed through a few countries like Peru and Nepal, and even within these countries, Cordillera Blanca in Peru and certain mountain ranges in Himalaya are highly skewed toward these regions. Often also we notice that these adaptation initiatives are reactionary, so something happens and then we do something about it. And also, if we speak to the stakeholders and the practitioners, is that most often also generalities about climate change that are then applied to the region of interest, instead of using local scientific information. We are saying that this is changing, but it's still a big problem today. And so we need scientific data which is tailored for the region of interest, ensuring that the information is available for everyone, and allowing, instead of this reactionary adaptation, anticipatory adaptation. And local actors, like we've heard from the INAIGEM, are extremely important in this process. What I'm going to talk about now is how can global products help in this respect. So these are examples of very large-scale studies which are using satellite products to provide a very detailed view of glacier change on the one hand, and the state of glaciers, so the volume of glaciers available worldwide. And of course these studies are worldwide, but sometimes because of their very large scope, they are forgotten in the local discourse as well. Because these data can now also feed the model of cryospheric changes. And so this is a very recent study which is going to be published soon, where we use this satellite data to better constrain numerical models of glacier change. And this plot is a little bit busy, but I can give you a little bit of time to just get ready. So in the middle there is the map of the world, and for example, if you're looking for Peru, you are looking. And you may also want to focus on high mountain Asia, depending on what you are interested in. And these numerical models now are able to provide really detailed, at the glacial level almost, information about future glacier change in a plus 1.5 degree world, a plus 2 degree world, or a plus 3 degree world. And so the colors are indicating how much glacier is going to be left. And in a +3 degree world, you see that in Peru, we don't expect any glacier left. However, in a +1.5 degree world, there is still potential to save some ice. And you're going to see the same pattern in all the regions. And the black dots, which are very big on this plot, represent complete disappearance of glaciers in these regions. And I think that this information also conveys that there is a big difference between a 1.5 degree world or a 3.3 degree world with respect to remaining glacier ice at the end of the century. I'm skipping again, so here this is a +3 degree world with complete disappearance in most tropical glaciers. Numerical models can also help with anticipating future mitigation action, here by providing information on the potential formation of proglacial lakes. Here this is an example from high mountain Asia, where numerical models are used to simulate the area and the volume of the lake and how it changes over time, and the differences also between the different climate scenarios. And this is already a lake which is experiencing these floods regularly today, and we expect this to be then even worse in the near future. And these global studies, they provide information of each glacier individually, maybe with some uncertainty, but they allow also to then focus on hotspots of future adaptation. So, for example, we see that there is a lot of existing lakes already in Nepal and Pakistan, but in the higher regions where we have these very low-lying towns, when they retreat, they are likely to create very large and dangerous glacier lakes. And this information then can provide maybe an information about future hotspots of proglacial lake formation, and in a kind of a no-regret adaptation strategy, maybe prevent settlements in these regions. To skip this one. Regarding water resources, it's something that is maybe not known from everyone. So when glaciers are retreating, what they do is that they are actually providing water to the system. So because when glaciers are staying constant in volume, on the annual scale they don't provide water at all because they stay in the same volume. But when they start retreating, they're providing water to the hydrological system, which is then gone if glaciers disappear. Their role, however, has always been important and is going to be important as a buffer of drought during the dry season or during the summer season. So when they are melting, they are providing water which is otherwise not available via precipitation. And we have been aware of these issues for a long time, but there has been a lot of misinformation about the roles of glaciers, especially in the early 2000s, where people were discovering this in the global discourse. People were thinking, glaciers are disappearing, we're going to rely on to be short of water resources next year, but this is not true. It's a process which takes a long time and depends on the region we are at. And so in high mountain Asia, for example, it's a busy plot, it's not important to look into the detail. In high mountain Asia, a highly glaciated region, we know that glaciers are going to continue to provide water for the foreseeable future and even more than they do today. And only after they are lost or climate stabilizes are they going to decline in their support of water at the annual scale. In Peru, it's completely differently. We've seen it already. Glaciers have retreated that much that they don't provide a good source of water anymore. Several research projects also have been dealing with providing spatial information to practitioners. So here this is also a very recent study in collaboration with the Peruvian scientists, providing information, climate information here, at very, very high spatial resolution. So each kilometer you have information about, for example, on the right-hand side, temperature and precipitation changes in the Cordillera Blanca or the Cordillera del Canota here in Peru. These data have yet to be leveraged at the local scale, of course. I'm not saying that they are super useful. They are maybe helping local practitioners to think in terms of future changes related to agriculture and helping maybe soft adaptations. this brings me already to my conclusions, which is to say that global available satellite products are helping to close the geographical gap in regions which so far have received very little attention towards adaptation and potential adaptation needs. And the recent raise of open data policies ensures that this information is available to everyone. We've seen a lot of my slides showing, okay, what is happening in the 1.5 degree world, what is happening in the 2 degree world, what is happening in the 3 degree world. This is kind of uncertainty related to our future emissions, and the uncertainty related also to what scientists are producing is always going to be there. It is not going to change in the next 5 years or so. And so, if we think in terms of adaptation, we have to focus on what is known already, even at the qualitative level. And I'm repeating here a few statements which may be known by some of you in the room, but some not, is that glaciers and snow cover will continue to decrease in the foreseeable future. In the Peruvian Andes in particular, there might be no ice left at all by the end of the century, or only very few remaining ice patches. And so it's important that local practitioners, like we've heard already, are working on using the information to prepare. Annual runoff from glaciers will continue to increase in highly glaciated basins, such as in Mountain Asia, but it will also decrease and continue to decrease in Peru. The seasonality shift is already happening, is already being observed, and will also continue in the future. And so it makes no sense to try to use quantitative information when all this qualitative information is already there. And so, of course, all this data is not going to solve all the problems and known problems such as the barriers. How to translate this information, abstract information, to local practitioners, and the expert here, and Mark, who is going to speak in a minute, is a real expert in the topic. How to translate this information into actionable information, I personally don't know. And it still remains a barrier to adaptation, and depending on the country, weak adaptive capacity and institutional support is also a big issue. With this, I would like to close, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Fabien, and also for putting this into a global perspective for us and illustrating some of the importance of seeing mitigation and adaptation hand in hand with the different future scenarios that we might be looking at. Unfortunately, we are experiencing some technical difficulties, so Mark Carey is meant to be our next speaker, but we're going to pause and change the itinerary a little bit to try to give them some time to bring Mark back online. And I think that what we're going to do instead is we had meant to close with a video from the president of INAIGEM, Guillermo, Arturo, Rojas, Gutierrez, but instead we're going to see his remarks now in the hope of making sure all of our speakers have a chance to present their information. So if we can roll that video, please, from the president of INAIGEM. Thank you.
our entity, this is the first talk in which we have an Arturo. And we want to take advantage of this space to offer a few words about it. The National Institute for Research on Glaciers and Mountain Ecosystems, because we believe that the city system of our institution is probably the greatest evidence of Peru to the protection of glaciers and high mountain ecosystems. In fact, INAIGEM was created within the framework of the COP20, which was held on December 2014 in our capital, the city of Peru. INAIGEM was created exactly on December 12, 2014 as a public research institute attached to the Ministry of the Environment, with the aim of generating scientific information that support activities aimed at improving the conservation and sustaining use of the resources present in these two areas, with a transversal perspective of adaptation to climate change, a role that we consider very important considering that Peru is the fifth most vulnerable country to climate change. This event, which is drawing to a close, has allowed us to highlight the role of information produced by scientists working in different parts of the world, South America, North America, and Europe. We have heard how this information can be used for the benefit of local communities and the general population. Above all, we have understood how this information can join action between institutions such as local and regional governments, other research institutes, ministries, among other actors, can achieve a sustainable and comprehensive management of this ecosystem. From INAIGEM, we reaffirm our commitment to continue working with the authorities and the international scientific community, with the aim of achieving national and international planning goals, aware of the fundamental role of our glaciers and mountain ecosystems have for the population in general. Thank you very much for joining us in this event.
Hello. Hi, great. Thank you for bearing with us through this change in itinerary. We're very grateful to have received the remarks of the President of INAIGEM, which makes clear how important the work that INAIGEM is doing and its direct policy relevance as well as its collaborative approach. So now our final scientific speaker will be a virtual speaker, Dr. Carey, who is a professor of history and environmental studies at the University of Oregon. Do we have Mark up online?
Okay, I'll mention that there's quite a bit of history. I'm not sure. I didn't for the other presentation. This is already covered. There's a long record in Peru of having glacier-related disasters, one of the countries in the world where the most deaths have occurred, unfortunately, due to this history. And these are ongoing issues right now with dangerous glacial lakes. There's a need for early warning systems at lakes, and also you can see here from one of these figures that many people, tens of thousands of people, potentially live in areas that could be subject to glacial lake outburst floods. So this is there's been quite a bit of loss and damage over time as a result of floods and avalanches. As a result, there's also been quite a bit of adaptation. For decades, Peru has been adapting to glacier retreat and ice loss and these hazards. They've partially drained and dammed 35 glacial lakes in order to prevent glacial lake outburst flood. This is one of the most successful long-term interventions to monitor, control, and secure glacial lakes and protect people. It's an incredible history of being able to do this, but it also shows long-term adaptation already to glacial change. In addition, it's been mentioned already that there's water security issues, and so there's also efforts underway that have been ongoing for a while to to reinforce and to fix, tame irrigation canals in these communities. This one here in Copa, and making those even better than they used to be. Either going back to the older technologies. Both of those are in place. So what we're seeing is that, as Ben Orlov, an anthropologist, mentions, quote, communities on the front lines of climate change like Copa are already adapting when they not often talk of that phenomenon. So we need to recognize that Peru has long been adaptive, uncompensated, unrecognized by international communities, through loss and damage, and the emissions keep going and melting the glaciers. It's all important to recognize that even though we're talking about glaciers, we have to think about the larger societal context in which this is happening. So in particular, statistics here from the National Institute of Statistics,
Mark, can you hear me? I just wanted to let you know we can hear you just fine, but your slides are not advancing, so we're still looking at the title slide. We apologize.
These are often grown like a box. Project.
Mark, can you hear me?
About priorities, about, yeah.
I'm sorry to say that we lost you for a little while, and we're still looking at your first opening slide. It's been probably about a minute that we haven't been able to hear you from when you started speaking about what looks like it might have been slide 5, but again, we're still looking at the title slide. I wonder if you'd like to reverse a little bit. Or we can go without slides if that's possible on your end. Very sorry both to Mark and to the audience for the technical difficulties that we're having with this presentation.
I can't, I've tried to stop.
I see our tech team is hard at work in the back corner here. Mark, can we do your presentation without slides? No, I think with enormous apologies to Dr. Carey and to the audience, I think we'll cut to Q&A for a moment while our tech team tries to sort out what's happening with the internet. I know there have been challenges across the continent with this. Mark, I'm very sorry about this. I do hope we'll be able to bring you back up in a minute. And feel free to stay on while we take Q&A. So with that, we're once again reorganizing the itinerary here. And I'd like to open the floor to any questions, both from those in the room and from anybody online, to any of our speakers. We have here still Lizzy, Danielle, Fabien. Yes, please, there's a microphone just here.
I have a very down-to-earth question. I would like to know what sort of funding you're getting for your research. If it's state, if it's university, if it's private, and whether you think the funding is sustainable. I would like to know whether we're going to have more of these studies being funded, or you are at risk of losing funding.
Why don't we have all three?
For all the researchers involved.
Let's have all three of you come and sit at the front, and then we can pass the microphone between you. Okay, great. Great. So Danielle, would you like to take that question first?
Okay, can you hear me? Yes. Particularly, we in INAIGEM receive funding to fulfill our working plan, not for research particularly. Then we have to apply to concentrate for research. And the process of applying to concentrate is very bureaucratic and takes lots of time that don't let you work practically. Then we can access to international cooperation in principle. There have been different projects like block project, for example, it ended with the United Kingdom, for example. And in principle, we can try to access to this cooperation. But in general, the resources for research from the are very limited. And we have also problems of structure because we even don't have researchers as a working place as itself. We are very different than ICP, for example. They have totally within institutes from 2 different countries or something. Then this problem has to be dealt with somehow.
Thank you for the question. So regarding the products I've been showing, there are international funding agencies, all of them funding fundamental research. And so what I've seen happening in my field is that many research which was fundamental is also targeting products which are becoming useful now. And so, as always, funding is always too low, but the fact that these products now are available via open data platform and are international in nature, collaboration between scientists, I think that we have a lot of potential here to seek funding by different countries and try to fund also streams which go towards open data sharing, and maybe also thinking more like engineers or more like we have to provide this product so that they are useful for others after the fundamental research has occurred.
I'd like to just give Mark the opportunity to respond. Are you here with us, Mark?
Yeah.
The question was about funding for research in Peru and its sustainability.
I think it's hard for me to say within the country, outside the country. I think there's research for scientific work, but there's less research for collaboration with communities and for social science and humanities work. It's often needed in order to add in the societal dimension of the human component. So I think there's limits on that for sure. I think that was one of the points I would have made. We need all of those things.
Thank you for bringing that in. Do we have another question from the audience? One and then two.
Hello, good morning everybody. Congratulations for your presentation. My name is Mirela Gallardo. I work in Instituto de Montaña in Peru. We have heard about research and the action and the things that are planned to be done in the future. And I would like to ask if how will this action will be implemented, because NDCs are a priority, but I think they are still not in the way of the national budget. And if you are also looking for international budget as well.
Lizzy, is this a question that you would like to take on?
There is one interesting thing about Peruvian adaptation measures is that we have tried to do the connection with the national budget, but we are still working on it. As you said, it's very difficult now. So for the implementation of many of the adaptation measures, we're trying to get international financing from cooperation, for example, GCF or GIS or other projects that when they come to Peru trying to do actions related to adaptation, we always try to connect this with NDCs to align the actions so they can contribute to the Peruvian NDCs. But the work is still going on. Thank you for the question.
Great, thank you. We have a question on this side of the room.
Thank you. I am Ambassador of Peru to Egypt. I would like to say that in this regard, funding for research that Congressperson already said, I think it's very key to know that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Peru and the Peruvian Agency of International Cooperation are doing their work in order to get more funding for research. We understand that this is a key point in these efforts. We know that as a fact. We are doing a lot in terms of trying to find funding for research. That's the only statement I would like to say right now. And congratulations for your expositions are very well done.
Thank you very much for those remarks, Ambassador. Do we have any other questions from the audience? As moderator, I'm going to take the liberty of asking two final questions. The first will be directed specifically at Dr. Carey. Mark, I wonder if you could tell us 2 to 3 main messages that you would like to transmit from your presentation. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. And then, just as a prelude, for the entire panel, I'm going to ask you afterwards what you think the primary gap is that we still need to fill in terms of connecting the research to policy to advance adaptation in Peru. So Mark, if you would please tell us a few of your central messages.
Thanks, Morgan, for the opportunity to do that. Sorry that I'm not able to be there. I'd say that one of the main messages is things have to happen at 2 levels right now. So there's adaptation that's happening within Peru, near the glaciers. That's one effort, but I just want to emphasize over and over that there is loss and damage happening in Peru. There has been. There's a need to curb and reduce global emissions. So there has to be a 2-pronged aspect of work at the international level to reduce the emissions and slow as best we can glacier retreat. But there also has to be work at the local level. I think in that area I wanted to show that there's a variety of different perspectives and messages and agendas that different people have. And if we come in from the outside with top-down, research-based, outsider objectives without first consulting the communities, and I'm hearing a lot of this today about collaboration and work with them, that if we don't do that, then a lot of these policies or practices fail, and sometimes people are more upset with climate change adaptation plans and science than they are with climate change, because that brings in new problems and introduces new issues. So we have to be very thoughtful about working from a community perspective and not all aligned. I know that sounds difficult, but I think that's really important to try to work with the community. I'll just say that for my messages. Thank you, Morgan, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for that. And I think, Mark, if you don't mind, we'll begin the final question with you, and then we'll conclude with the 3 in front of me. If you could tell us what you think the most important gap is that's waiting to be filled that we can address to bridge this science to policy gap and advance adaptation in Peru.
I think understanding local politics and working through those areas, I think, is a huge gap. But there's kind of 2 levels that are happening and they're not working up. So I would say that understanding of those local and regional political issues, social relations, and how they're interacting with each other. What I've seen and seeing in a lot of research is that different communities have different priorities and they're right next to each other, and sometimes they're competing with each other. So I think understanding that local dynamic a little bit better. And I don't need more scientific understanding, we need that, but we've had lots more work over time in the scientific dimensions of the size of glaciers than we have in local politics and how communities interact with each other. I mentioned also maybe that didn't come through, is issues about water rights, for example. We have lots of studies that are looking at how big the glaciers are and what runoff might be, but I don't see tons of issues, tons of studies that are looking at water rights and who makes decisions about how water is distributed, upstream, downstream interactions. So I think that's another part of the politics of glacier retreat that I think we need a bit more investigating. Not just research about it, but involvement of communities in part of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Lizzy, you have the mic. Would you like to take the next answer?
Yeah, I think that about the gaps we have, there are two big things, no? The first one is that we need to promote more research to know what is happening with the retreatment of the glaciers and what are the consequences of this for population, no? The vulnerability of the people regarding to hydric security. And the other one is, the other gap that we have is that the ones that are involved in this are not connected. We don't share the information. So the academy, the stakeholders, and also the people with the money, the financing, we need to have a space where they can all connect and that can manage the same information. No? So for the stakeholders will be very, very important to have this, to take the right decisions, to implement the actions. And yeah, those things. Thank you.
Thank you, Lizzy. Danielle, your perspective.
I would like to add some detail about all this. The research conducted to adaptation to disasters is difficult in the sense that we have to accompany it by social research also, and social work. Because, for example, we have implemented several systems of early warning systems, several early warning systems for glacier-related disasters. But to implement these early warning systems, we have to construct towers, we have to put some equipment in the mountains, and sometimes this has problem with the communities. Because the tradition of the community, in that tradition, these kind of implements can cause drought. Because they offend some of the ruling deities or something. Then sometimes they damage the tower, the equipment. This has happened before. Then we have, for example, now 2 of these early warning systems working now. But previously we lost equipment because of attacks from population. Then how can we avoid this? We have to address social education program, very serious. We have to go into the population. We are doing that now in INAIGEM. We are going to the population, we are talking to them, we are looking for alliances with the people, because without this, we work for nothing. We will lose our work. And it's very important that they understand that this is needed, and these are the procedures. That must be a part of the adaptation plan, the social work with this people.
Thank you, Danielle. And finally, Fabien.
Everything has been said already, so it was really insightful comments. I can only add maybe related to the going back to the funding question and to the collaboration question. Continuity is probably the most important in all these endeavors, because researchers who are coming and doing a 3-year project, for example, is actually not very useful. What we are going to need is continuity from local practitioners and researchers, and also from partners, and someone like Mark who spent their entire career working on the topic can ensure that the understanding of the political system and the local system is there, and that's definitely very important indeed. And then collaboration over competition is also something I can relate to, definitely.
Great. In that case, we'll wrap up now, make room for the next session. Thank you so much to everybody who's here in the audience today. We really appreciate your time. Thank you to the members of the Peruvian government who are here to hear this important research being undertaken. Thank you to those who've joined us online, and especially thank you very much to our panelists. We appreciate all the hard work that you're doing. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.